Hi, I'm hoping everyone can see me and hear me. If there's any problems, please drop a message in the chat box and let me know. I think we're still waiting for one more person, and anyone else who's coming, I think, has said they're just going to access the recording. So it's a small group today. The plan for today is for me to introduce what we're doing first. Well, I'll talk a little bit for a little while, not very long. Then we're going to do a few different practices. And the idea really is not just an extended mindfulness session, but to just practice different tools and skills that you may or may not want to take away. If you find them useful or interesting, you can. To make mindfulness feel a little bit more accessible or useful or easier for you to access. So I'm going to start. So I think if anyone else comes in, I'll come over. You'll see me kind of click to let them in. But I'm going to start. So the first thing that I always really like to explain about the work that I'm doing is that we have this idea of mindfulness, and for me it can be quite limiting because it's often just laying or sitting still in very particular kinds of poses, focusing either on the breath or on sort of wandering around in the body, doing a body scan. And those are really great techniques, but they don't always feel comfortable or work for everybody. So I suppose the first thing I'd like to say is, like, what is mindfulness? What do we mean by this? And a really, really simple definition that I love is the idea that mindfulness is like a plane. And we need these three central components to happen for us to be actually doing mindfulness, whatever that means. So the sort of basic tenet of mindfulness is that we are noticing the present moment. We're here right now in the present moment. And then there's sort of two wings that sort of help us soar in that place, in a place that is mindful, is that we're not judging and that we're moving as best as we can towards self-compassion. And so what we mean by that, the not judging bit, is kind of our brains are really geared towards saying, this is good, this is bad, this is boring, this is interesting, I like this, I don't like this. And that's great. And that tool in the brain is there to keep us safe and draw us towards things that are beneficial to us and away from things that might not be. It can also draw us towards, I don't know, eating loads of ice cream, which might not be so beneficial for us. But the idea here is that we are noticing the whole experience. So when we judge, we're pulling away or leaning towards. What we're trying to do here is just let everything be. Whatever's happening in this present moment, in our environments, in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotional selves, we're allowing that to just take place. We're not leaning towards or away from, as best we can. So that's quite a big ask of our brains, especially our very Western brains, to try to sit still in that way. And that arm of kind of self-compassion, that's another tricky one. So I think the language is interesting. That's the language that's used in mindfulness. But really, for me, all we're meaning is trying not to be kind of unkind to ourselves when we struggle with doing this. So when we realise we're not noticing, or we don't even want to notice what's happening right now, or we are judging, or we've drifted off, or whatever it is that's happening, we have a tendency to be quite critical. That's another really normal habit of the brain, is to judge and to criticize. And it's really difficult to be noticing when these two things are kind of going on as well. So we're just going to notice when they happen. If we drift away from being a bit kinder to ourselves, or we drift towards kind of this, I like it, I don't like it, it's boring, it's exciting, we're just going to notice and see if we can just come back to being a bit more still. That's the sort of basic tenet of mindfulness. The thing that I'm really interested in is why so many people find meditation and mindfulness states quite difficult to access. We often go to classes, we come out, we don't feel like we got what we were meant to get, or we go to courses and we drop out halfway through, or we get apps and we only do them for a short period of time and then we stop. So one of the areas my work historically has been in is kind of working with what's happening to the human nervous system in terms of our emotional and feeling states and our stress states in particular. And so a model that I think is really interesting to understand this really quickly is called the hand model of the brain, which a guy called Dan Siegel came up with, if you want to look it up. So if you just take your hand in your space that you're in right now and have a look at it, I'm going to say this is your brain, this down here, this is your body. Okay, this is the symbol that we're going to use. I'm just going to ask you to curl your thumb into the palm of your hand and curl your fingers just gently over your thumb. So these fingers are going to represent this frontal part of your brain. This is the clever, thinking, negotiating, noticing part of the brain. And I quite like the idea that these like four fingers are like bars, like Wi-Fi bars, you know. If you kind of wind those up for a moment, you're going to look at, this is the central part of the brain. This is the limbic system. And in a very basic, simple way, we're looking at the brain in a very simplistic way. It's much more complex than this, really. This middle part is doing sensations and feelings and this sort of memory storage and things like that in there. And if you curl that out, you've got this here. And this is this back part of the brain, and it's very kind of basic and primal, and it does all the sort of automatic things that your body needs to do and automatic responses. And one of the things that it's responsible for is dealing with stress. So dealing with fear, dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, dealing with things that feel a bit difficult. And I think most people have heard nowadays of fight and flight, and some people have also heard of freeze. These are the three basic choices this part of the brain's got. Fight, you know, here, tense, angry, annoyed, irritable. Flight is hunched forward, fearful, anxious, a bit worried about stuff. It might not be as extreme as running away or actually fighting. And freeze is different. The heart, instead of pumping really fast and pumping blood around the body, the heart starts to go slowly, and we can get quite disconnected and feel a bit floppy, a bit hopeless. This is often a state that, if you relate it to a meditation class, it's often what's happened when you come out of that class and go, I don't really remember any of it. Maybe I fell asleep. Sometimes noticing can bring us into one of these states, and that's a bit problematic. If we're someone who's got quite a high degree of sensitivity in the nervous system, perhaps that's our natural state, our neurotype. Perhaps we've experienced some trauma or anxiety or an enormous amount of stress, which I guess is most people nowadays with the way the world is. So what happens when we're perceiving stress? So it might not be a stressful event, but our brains might see it as stressful, or we're actually in a stressful event, is that this starts to happen. So we start to go what we can call offline. Yeah. And, you know, this is worst case scenario. This is big time fight, flight, or freeze. What we're often doing is kind of something like this. And this is really normal. I mean, we all do this all day, every day. You know, we're stressed, we can't find the keys, the dog's barking, we've got financial issues, whatever the sort of fear states are, the things that are going on out in the world, we're all kind of doing this all day. But when we're kind of coming towards this kind of thing, you know, this is problematic. And one of the things that's really problematic is if we're doing a lot of this, when we're wanting to practice mindfulness, that's going to make this really, really difficult, because these things happen when but best when we're online. Noticing what's happening is very much an online state. This is connected. I know where I am in time and space. I can manage the things that are happening. So even if I feel a little bit uncomfortable, or my thoughts are wandering, or something feels a bit unpleasant, or there's a bit of pain or discomfort in my body, this is okay. We can still notice what's going on. But if we're kind of going into this is not great. So the workshops that I'm running are all about finding ways to kind of access this mindfulness state and trying to keep the brain and the nervous system online. So this is, you know, your nervous system goes down to your body, sends all sorts of messages, heart rate fast, heart rate slow, and it affects the way we can think and notice and experience our present moment. So the first thing that I always really like to do in these sessions is kind of talk about, although this session's theme is the hands, I want to talk a little bit about what we do with our eyes first. So one of the things that we often get told if we're listening to a recording, or we're going to a class, or we're reading books is, and not always, but we often get told, close your eyes. So just close the eyes down. And that's kind of, you know, sit in a particular way, quite upright. That may or may not be possible. I'm not too worried about how you sit or lay down, anything that you like. But I think there's something about what happens with the eyes that's really, really important. And so the first thing that I like to show people is what I call, well, it's not me, it's called peripheral vision. And I'd like you to just raise your hands up and give your fingers a little wiggle and kind of move them in and out. And what I want you to do is, so kind of looking away from the screen, maybe looking slightly above your screen. And what I want you to look for is your wiggling fingers. And I want you to move your hands out further where you can't see them, and then back in where you can just see them. And what we're trying to find is the place where you can just see your fingers. So you're up above the screen, looking ahead of you, and you can still see your fingers. So staring at screens, this is staring eyes. This is not actually great for our nervous system. We often go a bit offline, if we stare for a little bit too long. So just playing around with that, just seeing, even you can lower your hands and think, can I keep hold of that peripheral vision? If you look at my eyes, you'll see my eyelids probably dropped slightly. Peripheral vision is quite relaxed, but I can sort of take in the whole field of this kind of space around me. I'm not looking at any one particular thing, and it can be quite useful if you want to use this to just keep bringing the hands back into it when you feel like you've lost it and you started staring at something again. So this is a way of using your eyes that's always available to you. You can absolutely close your eyes if you like doing that. Do that. But peripheral vision is a really great way to kind of let the eyes rest. We're not taking in quite so much visual data. The eyes do an enormous amount of work. They are an extension of the human brain. It's worth knowing that and remembering that. So what they're doing influences how we feel. So we're going to do peripheral vision, but you can also lower your eyes down. So again, wherever your screen is, kind of lowering your eyes down, maybe a couple of feet in front of where your knees would be or are if you're seated. And then the other option with the eyes is actually to kind of let the lids really come down as if they're nearly closed and just look through the lashes. And this is nice. This is kind of blurring the world. You can do it so that you can almost not really make things out. So you're just letting a little bit of light in. You can get all those lovely little shapes happening through the lashes. So closed peripheral vision, slightly lowered out ahead, looking through the lashes. Now you can move between all of these and you can keep checking in throughout. Do I want my eyes closed when I'm doing something? Do I want to do peripheral vision, lowered, looking through the lashes? And just noticing that as often as you can is a really useful way to start to allow yourself to be self-led rather than just doing what a teacher or a facilitator or an app or a recording is telling you to do, but actually tracking how you're feeling about something and really making a personal choice, because none of these are preferable. The only thing that's preferable is that you feel as present and as comfortable as you possibly can. So that's your eyes, those are your options. I will try to remember to refer back to that as we move along. What I'd like you to do is choose your eyes, yeah? Peripheral vision, lashes, little bit ahead, or completely closed. Choose one, just for a moment or two. You don't have to stick with it. And just take stock of how you are right now. Maybe noticing specific muscle groups in your face, your jaw, your tongue. You might actually cup your hands. So cup, means they're not flat, but they're kind of cupped, and place them over your ears. And their sound sort of changes a little bit when we place our hands over the ears. See if you can just notice one or two breaths, the sound of your own breath. And just again, you can let your hands come down, just noticing how you're feeling, how you've arrived here today. Are you tired? Are you energized? Are you bored? Are you excited? Are you worried? Are you thinking a lot? There's not a right way to be feeling, just how we are today. And we're not going to do a lot of that. Just wanted to notice how you arrived today, just for a moment. So as I said at the beginning, today the theme is the hands. It's not that we won't be doing other things, and we're going to be coming back to this mindfulness plane throughout. But the thing with the hands is these are a fantastic place for us to take our focus. The hands and the brain are intricately connected. They're connected often through vision, because these are the ways. This is the food that we would have brought up to our mouth. This is the tools that we would have used, and we would have needed to use our hands and our eyes and looking down at our hands. So there's a real connection there, and there's often the cases that what we do with our hands, our brain might follow suit, and it can be interesting to see if it does, So I'm going to move back a little bit so you can really see me here. What I'd like you to do is take your dominant hand. For me, that's my right hand. You take your dominant hand, and I'd like you to just start by, pretending you've got a pen in your hand and just drawing a line. That's just really simple. We're just drawing a line across where, about sort of belly button, waist height. Yeah, just drawing a line. And then what I'd like you to do is draw a sort of scribbly line really fast. Draw a scribbly line a few times, and you can stop. I'm going to ask you to do, you're in your own space, I'm hoping you feel private and comfortable. I'm going to ask you to do this scribbly line really fast, and I'm going to ask you to just speak out loud. Say something like, my name is, and I'm right now where you are in the world. So I might say, my name is Jessica and I'm in Austria. Yeah, try it 2 or 3 times. My name is, and where you are. Yeah, really, really fast. Just saying that. And stop. Okay. Now, what I always notice is I can't speak slowly while I'm doing this. This part of the brain is moving with my hands. I'm thinking fast, I'm speaking fast. So you could try doing this and just thinking, my name is and where you are. So just try that now, just silently inside your own mind. Now, if you really push, you can let that go. You can try and slow it down, but it's quite difficult. It doesn't come naturally. And now I'd like you to do the opposite, which is take your imaginary pen, and I'd like you to start drawing really slow lines at the same height. And I'd like you to say to yourself out loud your name and where you are in the world. So I would say, my name is Jessica and I'm in Austria. And that's it. And maybe just trying it silently, like we did before. And see if you can make that line even slower. And just one more time, even slower. And one more time, and let the eyes follow the hand. And then just letting that go for a moment. So this is just one way that we can start to notice this connection between where we are and how we're feeling and our hands and how they move. It can be a really great reset. So if you're feeling quite stressed, it can actually be really lovely, if you feel comfortable wherever you are, just drawing that really slow line and getting slower and slower. And just seeing that as a way to start to kind of reset the nervous system. And it gets a little bit easier to be here. We're just noticing our hand as we draw it across our imaginary giant paper, just drawing it across real slowly. So we're going to move on to another hand movement, and if you've done any kind of meditation or anything, you might know this, but I'm going to do it just a little bit differently. So not much, but you might know there is a breathing where you open and close your hands as you breathe. And both hands are going to go just for a moment while we're working out what this will look like. So when you breathe in, the hands close. And when you breathe out, they open. We're going to do it that way around for now. So you're breathing in and you're breathing out. But what I'd like you to do is just let the hands drop down into your lap. If you're laying down, let your hands lay on the floor either side of you, or on the arms of chairs, wherever feels comfortable for you to feel like, yeah, this is okay. I can sit like this for a few minutes. What I'd like you to do as well is just start with only the right hand. So when you breathe in, you're going to close your hand. And when you breathe out, you're going to release. In, close the hand. Out, release. Remembering the eyes now as well. So just lowering them, looking away from the screen, peripheral vision closed through the lashes. So you're breathing in, hand closes, breathing out, hand opens. Breathing in, hand closes, breathing out, hand opens. And see if you can start to just let go of a lot of the effort you might be using. So you might be really opening your hand. And you might be closing it to a fist. Try and make that movement as effortless as possible. And so you're not trying to force a change to your breath either. You're not kind of going super slow or doing anything in particular. And so the movement might be really small. Might just be the fingers opening a tiny little bit and kind of closing towards each other. Breathing in, the hand closes. Breathing out, the hand opens. Just the right hand. And see if you can, whether your eyes are open or closed, what are they drawn to do? Notice what the eyes do. Do they look down when you open your hand? And now I'd like you to let go of the right hand for a moment. We're going to do the same thing with the left hand. So same choices with the eyes, and just breathing in, the hand closes. Breathing out, the hand opens. And your hand is following your breath. And your breath might feel a bit jerky and uncomfortable and not sure what to do because it's being looked at. And that's okay, that's really normal. So we're breathing in, the hand closes. We're breathing out, the hand opens. And again, let go of the effort in your hand. The fingers might move literally just a centimetre or two. Keep your attention on that hand, opening and closing if you can. And the connection between the hand and your breath. And just noticing where your eyes would like to go. Would your eyes like to look down towards your hand? That might be interesting. And now, letting go of the left hand for a moment, we're going to do both hands. So again, your hands are resting on the floor if you're laying down. They're on your lap, they're on the arms of your chair. And just for now, we're doing it this way round. Okay, so we're breathing in, the hands close, and we're breathing out, the hands open. And we're trying to reduce effort. We're not trying to do anything big or clever to the breath. Breathing in, the hands close. Breathing out, the hands open. Breathing in, the hands close. Breathing out, the hands open. Where can you let go of effort? Just having a little look around. Have you got effort in your shoulders or upper arms? In your face or jaw? Effort in your neck or belly? Just giving yourself this moment. There really isn't anything else to do. Breathing in, the hands close. Breathing out, the hands open, like little flowers. Reduce the effort. Letting the hands sync with your breath. Releasing any effort anywhere else and doing an even smaller movement maybe with your hands. How small and delicate can this movement in your hands be? As delicate and gentle as your breath? Or your breath might be jumpy and jerky, maybe your hand movements are too. That's okay. The intention here is just to notice the syncing up of these two movements and how effortless we can make this. Not forcing the hands, not forcing the breath. Not cross if the hands and the breath keep unsyncing. This is fine, this is normal, we get lost. Just keeping that going, just for a moment or two longer. Making it easier. Letting go of any effort anywhere else that can be let go of. Noticing the movement in the hands. Noticing the syncing up of the breath. Breathing in, the hands close. Breathing out, the hands open. Just very slowly starting to let that go. And maybe for a moment, just noticing your hands. Noticing the palms of your hands. Noticing all four of your fingers and your thumb. Just noticing. Now, the next exercise. Actually, I want to just say that the thing with this movement is it's really small and it's really delicate, and it often gives us a little bit more ease in staying present because we've got something to do, and we've got something to do with the part of our body that's really hooked up to the brain and then the nervous system. And so if you find yourself wanting to be mindful or in a mindfulness class or listening to a mindfulness audio and they talk about focusing on the breath and you're really struggling, this is something that you can just bring in yourself. This is always available, this movement with the hands. So the next thing that I want to talk about, and the hands will come into play, is a part of the nervous system. So we go back to that idea, that if we're kind of going offline, then we're sending signals from this part of the brain down into the body through the nervous system. The body's getting stressed, it's sending signals back up to the brain to stay offline because things don't feel safe. We get stuck in that kind of loop sometimes. There is a part of the nervous system, again, you may have heard of it, there's a nerve within the autonomic nervous system called the vagus. And we know from looking at people under fMRIs and things like this, that when we stimulate this particular nerve, we tend to come into slightly calmer sort of states. And so I want to lead you through a placing of the hands on your body. But I also really want to say that isn't something that you have to do. You could imagine doing it if you don't want to actually do it. So you can, if you're someone who's got a great imagination, and we don't all have that sort of awareness of imagining parts of the body, you can just take your mind to the places that I'm mentioning. But in this exercise, the three places that we're really going to focus on is your cheek, your upper chest, and your lower belly, so sort of somewhere around just underneath the belly button. And we're gonna move the hands around, and then we're going to end up with just a hand on the upper chest. And the reason we're traveling to these three places is because this is where the vagus nerve travels. So the vagus nerve, it comes out, it's spread out wonderfully. You can find wonderful pictures of this on the internet if you look. And it's all through the ear, and it's there in the side of the face, and it's going down the throat and into the torso. And it connects with the heart and the stomach and most of the inner organs of the torso. And it's got its tail down in your lower digestive tract, sort of down there below the belly button in your lower abdomen. So we're going to kind of see if we can be compassionate and kind to ourselves in this really kind of visceral body-based way by placing our hands and offering a little bit of warmth, just sort of physical warmth from our hands to that place. So we'll start again by make sure you're comfortable, sitting, laying down in an armchair, whatever feels comfortable to you. And just choosing your eye position. You don't have to stick with it if you don't like it. Are you going to pick peripheral eyes? Are you going to lower them down to sort of just looking a few feet beyond where your feet would be if you're seated? Or are you going to, do that lovely looking through lashes, little lights? Or are you going to close them completely? And just choosing the one that if you move between them and just hold each one for a second or two, just moving around those different eye positions, just noticing what happens. Do I have a preference? Am I drawn to one of them over the others? And you might not be. I'm not always. We can't always know. There's a really subtle noticing going on there. The more we practice mindfulness, the better our noticing skills get. So it can be something to just keep coming back to. Which eye position do I feel most comfortable with right now today? So if you have a preference, pick that. If you don't, just play and see what happens. So you're coming into your comfortable position. Eyes are in whatever place you've chosen. Everything can change. You can shift, you can move, you can sit up, you can lay down, you can change your eyes. There's no need to be rigid and stiff and still when you're practicing mindfulness. I would always encourage you, in fact, to shift and move in ways that feel slow and responsive. So we're trying not to do sort of sudden, really jerky movements like if we've got an itch. But if we have an itch, we might just reach up real slowly, mindfully, and just have a little itch. That's okay. We're not suffering, for this. So coming into a comfortable position that can change any time, coming into a comfortable position with your eyes. We're going to start by placing our hand on our cheek. And the tips of the fingers are sort of somewhere around the temple. And the thumb can actually sort of tuck in a little bit just behind your earlobe or somewhere close to that line of your jaw. You can have a look at my hand if you like and see where it's placed. So this is where we're going to place our hand. We'll switch, so yeah. And the upper chest is where we're going to place the other hand. Now, if you're seated, and even if you're laying, you can do this, yeah. You're going to lean your head very slightly into that hand that you have, whichever hand you've picked. There's no need to start on any particular side. So we're letting the eyes rest wherever you want them to rest. You have one hand on your upper chest, one hand on your cheek. And we're just going to start to see if we can notice things again, coming into a place of noticing and taking your attention to the places where your hands are currently. Can you feel the sensation? It's always easier to feel the one that's on your cheek, on your face. There's a lot of sensors there in the face. It might be harder to get some feedback from the one on your upper chest. So we're not looking for anything to happen or anything in particular. We're just looking. We're not looking to see if we like or dislike. We're just looking. And we're doing this in a way that feels kind, because we're not going to let ourselves get too uncomfortable. So we're going to switch now. The hand on the cheek is going to come down to the belly. The hand on the chest is going to go to the other cheek. And we're just noticing the sensations. Is there warmth? What's the hand on the cheek like? Is it dry? Is it damp? Is that okay? And again, the feedback on the cheek can be quite intense compared to perhaps a lack of sensation in the lower belly. And that's just really interesting. We have a lot more happen on our cheek, wind blowing and hair touching if we've got long hair, and clothes getting dragged over the face. This is an exposed part of the body, it has a lot of sensory capacity. So if the lower belly is difficult to sense, you could lighten the touch on your face, make it so that it's only just touching. You might move the hand on the belly. If that feels comfortable, so everything we're doing is an invitation. Anything you don't like and it really is just not nice, or you think, you know what, I'm doing nothing, I'm going offline. You do something that feels comfortable for you. You might open your eyes, look around the room. If it felt really uncomfortable to do something we were doing, you might stop altogether and walk around the room. You might touch objects, look at them, name them. These are really nice ways to come back into presence away from the practice, if you just need to feel a bit safe. If this feels okay to do, we're going to move again. So we're going to bring the hand that was on the belly to the chest, the hand that was on the face to the belly. So it can be really interesting actually to just notice the face, where the hand was. What's that sensation like? Is it cold? If you really feel into it, as if the hand is almost still there, like an imprint. Remember, you can move your eyes between positions, check out something different if you want to. See if that warmth from your hands might feel comforting, might just feel nice and cozy. It's snowing where I am, so it's quite nice to feel a bit of warmth. And again, we can move our hands. If it's easier to get the feedback and stay present with the sensation, we can create a little bit of movement. Always trying to go slow. And when we're moving, trying to be as effortless as possible. It's much easier to notice what's happening when we reduce effort. Sometimes we think we need something to be really loud to be able to hear it. The louder, the easier it is to hear. But actually our nervous system gets quite overwhelmed when a lot of sensory data is coming at it. And so it isn't listening so well. The smaller and more subtle sensations, the more how we're sort of able to stay with that noticing. It's really small. You can sort of press very lightly. You can press on your upper chest. Just the lightest of touches. Imagine if you were touching flour in a bowl for baking. You would literally only just leave a little imprint. So just pressing and releasing perhaps on the belly and the chest there. Notice that sensation. Do you like to keep your hands still? Do you like to move them? Do you like the pressing? Try all three. Just have an experience of all three. If there's one that you feel keeps you present and online, keeps you able to hear that feedback in the sensation, we'll go with that one for now. The more we practice mindfulness, the easier it gets to stay online and present with the less comfortable or lovely sensations. We can bring that noticing out of practices and into our day-to-day life. Noticing other people, noticing what we're doing. Just going back to that original position with one hand on the chest, upper chest, and the other hand on the cheek, fingers to the temple, thumb just tucked somewhere near the end of the jawline or behind the lobe of the ear. Tip the head into the hand if that feels comfortable. What's that sensation on the face like now? And the sensation under the hand that's on your chest. What's that like? Just noticing. So we're going to come back out of that sort of hand moving practice. And again, I would really encourage you to consider, if this is one you like, to bring that into any mindfulness or meditation practice that you engage in. Just having moments where you have some physical contact with yourself can feel really kind, but it can also feel like it's easier to be in the here and now when we have some more visceral feedback. So some of us, the nervous system is actually less sensitive, and we kind of, people say notice in this space here, and we think, I can't notice anything. And our mind just goes, then we start, off we go. And so I think just having something a little bit more, there it is, oh, there it is, can help us to stay here and then widen out our noticing practice as we explore mindfulness over time. So we're going to do something that's a little bit more active. These practices have been pretty slow. Often when I do them, I kind of go, oh yeah, feeling kind of sleepy now. You might not. That's okay. That's just me. And what we're going to do next, you can do seated, you can do it laying down, or you can do it standing. I'm going to do it standing to show you, so that you can see the full sort of range of motion. What I would say is, if you're standing, try to make sure your feet are in a position that feels really comfortable. So your feet are sort of, I'm going to go shoulders width apart, so they're quite wide. They're not, together. We're not trying to balance here. We're trying to be comfortable. I like to turn my feet a little bit out, but I think that's just because I've got slightly bandy legs. So the other thing I'd say is be comfortable. Don't ever look out the knees. Bouncy, nice loose bouncy knees. All we're going to do is we're going to raise our arms up. So if you're laying, you'd be sliding them along the floor. You're going to turn them so that the palms come down as your arms go down. If you're seated, this is the same movement. I guess if you've got arms on an armchair, you might not come all the way. You might just come to wherever the arms are on your chair. And you're going to come up and you're going to go down. Now, our tendency with these kinds of movements is to kind of really, make these really big movements, okay, like we're stretching or we're exercising. We're not. The reality is your movements could be quite small. And in fact, if you're laying down, you might draw your hands away from the ground slightly and actually come more up at an angle towards the ceiling and away out at the body at this sort of angle. So a foot or two away from the floor at an angle. If you're standing or seated, we're going to go up and down at the sides of the body. So our palms are facing up as our hands go up, and our palms are facing down as our hands go down. We're going to breathe in when we go up, and we're going to breathe out as we go down. Now, I'd really like you to look away from the screen at this point, because what I'd like you to do is not follow me. So looking down at the floor. You can even turn away, close the eyes, look through the lashes. Try not to follow me. So you're going to breathe in as you raise your arms, not too high. No clicking or discomfort in the shoulders or the neck should be happening. So if that means you're only going up to like sort of shoulder height, then I would bend your elbows so that your arms still, your hands still raise up. Really, we're looking for above the heart. So you're breathing in as your hands go up, turning the palms, and they're going down. Now, it might be that they're quite fast, like little wings beating. That's lovely. That's great. You know, it might be that they're way slow, you know, really slow. And that's also fine. They might be quite small movements, you know, you might not go all the way down, especially if they're quite small, if it's quite fast, sorry. If your breath is little, that's great. That's beautiful. You're like this little bird fluttering, you know. That's wonderful. That we're not looking for anything in particular. We're just really kind of seeing what happens when we're going up and down. And in fact, let that go. Let that go wherever you are. All I'd like you to do now is letting your eyes rest in your resting position, taking your attention to your hands. Notice the sensations in your hands. Very likely the pumping of blood has changed the sensations. If you carry on doing this movement for some time, you'll usually find that your breath will just slow down. If nothing more, you'll get a little bit tired. You're pumping the blood there and you're moving the hands like that. It's having to pump up into the hands that are above the heart. So if you ever need real pumping sensation, that's a movement that can be quite useful and quite interesting. And then you can just drop your attention. You're noticing part of the plane down into the hands. Doesn't matter how they feel, there isn't a right way. We can just be really grateful that they're there, with blood pumping around in them. That can happen. That's really quite amazing. So another one that I really love, especially for those of us who spend lots of time on computers and screens and things like this, is to cup the hands. So cupping the hands just means very gently putting the fingers together and the thumb curls to the side of the pointing finger. And we sort of curl our fingers in and we create this little indentation in the palm of the hand. So they're like little sort of curved hands, like little mini claws. But they're not tight or rigid or anything. They're quite comfortable. And with your cupped hands, in whatever position you're in, laying, sitting, still standing is fine. You're going to take your cupped hands and you're just going to place them over your eyes. So your palms of your hands are not touching your eyes. Nothing is actually touching the eyelids. It's really just the cheekbones, and perhaps a little bit of the side of the hand is on the bridge of the nose. And the fingers are laying over the forehead a little bit. But the cupped part of the hand is over the eyes. So just for a moment, really, noticing that sensation, noticing what your eyes do now. Do your eyes close? Do your eyes remain open? Do they rest in one of those positions that we've explored? So noticing first what the eyes are doing. And wherever they are, what can you see? Can you see light? Can you see dark? Can you see patterns or swirls? Can you see the light coming in between your fingers and around the edges? Just noticing that. Make it effortless. Drop the elbows a little bit and let the hands fall. And the eyes can remain in a resting position just for a moment. Another really quick way of sort of bringing ourselves back online is using sort of quick sensations with words and names. So again, if you're practicing mindfulness, or if you're just a bit stressed in your day, actually, using the hands of kind of using them as a feedback tool. So I'm going to ask that wherever you are, whether you're laying on the floor or sitting in a chair and looking at a screen like me, or if you'd like to move around the space you're in, if that feels interesting or useful, I'd like you to just take the opportunity to lay your hands on something that's nearby. So for me, that's my desk. I'm just going to lay my hands here on this desk. When you found something that you feel drawn to or not drawn to, it's just there. It's the first thing that you got to, like me with my desk. I'd like you to bring that sort of noticing part back online. It's just like a spotlight, like a detective that's really interested in finding out every single bit of information it can find out through your hands. So wherever you are with your hands laid on something, could be the curtain, could be a piece of your clothing, could be your own hair, could be the other hand. It's absolutely fine. There's no right thing to have lain your hands on. Could be the floor if you're laying down. But yeah, so your noticing mind is like a detective looking for clues for what it's touching. So your conscious brain, your mind, it knows what you're touching. But don't worry about that for a moment. That's just a word, isn't it? Like desk or carpet or hair. Look for the details through your hands, through your fingertips, which you can move very slowly, through the palms of your hands. I'd like you to explore the object that you're touching, as if you have never touched this before, as if you don't know what it is, and you're trying to work out what are the properties of the thing that's under your fingertips, under your fingers, the palm. You can move around very slowly on that object, but it's all slow. The more slowly we go, the more information we get. The details you might be looking for might be density. Is it hard? Little press? Is it soft? Is it somewhere in between? Is it smooth or rough? What are the textures? What does this tell you about this object? Is it made up of many parts? Just allowing this information to come in through the hands, through the nervous system, the sensory system, up into your brain as data. We can very quickly lose interest in these things because we think we know what this is. But the likelihood is you haven't actually touched this object with this degree of curiosity. So if you're able, stay curious. Maybe you turn your hands over, touch this object with the back of your hands. There's less sensation there. Actually, for me, it feels like more. So just exploring this object with the sense that you're touching the object, perhaps that the object is touching you back. You might lay your hands flat and pressing in again slightly, registering the density of that object. And pressing slightly, I mean do it a lot less than you're doing it. Effortless. Maybe just feeling with your thumb or with one finger. Curious detective. What are the properties of the object you've chosen? The mind wanders and the mind gets bored and busy, and that's okay. Notice what's under your hands. See if there are different ways you can explore it. Is it different if you have different amounts of information coming in through the eyes? So when we're feeling something, our eyes will want to look. So don't look, look up and away. Maybe the eyes are closed, maybe the peripheral vision, maybe eyelashes. But wherever your eyes are, move them slightly up and away from wherever you're looking. Does that change the way you take in this sensory data through your hands? And as you move your hands around, exploring this object, does anything change in your hands? Notice the palms, the backs, the right thumb, the right first finger, second finger, fourth finger and little finger. Notice the left thumb, forefinger, left middle finger, ring finger and little finger. Notice the back of your hands. Just staying with your hands resting on whatever object you've chosen. If you'd like to move away from the object for a moment to just really be with the hands, you might rest your hands in your lap. You might rest your hands on your belly or on those points that we had earlier. See if you can really let them rest. So lap, floor, the arms of a chair. What's happening with your hands now? Not just the surface of your hands, but the musculature, the positioning. We're going to return wherever we are now. We're going to return to the moving of the hands in and out. Like we did at the beginning, we're going to closing and opening the hands, really small, effortless. It might be easier now to make really small, effortless movements. The fingers might move towards the thumb and the palm, but they might not reach, they might not get anywhere near to each other. So just opening and closing your hands. And this time we're going to breathe in as we draw the fingers in, and we're going to breathe out as we let the fingers go. And the fingers are following the breath. So let the fingers curl in very slightly as you breathe in and release as you release your breath. You might remember that we did it the other way around at the beginning, and you might notice if there's a preference. If you have a preference with the following of breath and fingers, please feel free to choose the one that feels just right for you right now. So you might be doing breathing in as you close your fingers towards each other and breathing out as you release. You might be breathing out as you close and in as you open. Just letting the fingers follow the breath. That's often much harder than we think it will be. See if the breath can be allowed to just do whatever it wants. Could be jagged and jumpy. Could be smooth, could be deep, could be shallow. Right now, there is no right way to breathe. Your body is doing its job. It's taking in oxygen. It's releasing toxins. Just moving the fingers with the breath. I'd just like to invite you to again notice what your eyes do. They might be closed, and that's okay, but just notice. Do your eyes move at all as you're doing this? Sometimes we notice that the eyes drop towards the hands when the fingers are open. Or they might be dropped towards the hands the whole time because the fingers are relatively open the whole time. Maybe just notice. Do they move? Are they still? What position are they in? And actually, wherever your eyes are closed, open, through the lashes, just letting your eyes drop down, let your gaze drop down, not to your hands, but towards where your hands are. So just letting the eyeballs drop down and let the hands follow the breath. Fingers, really just the fingers. Letting go of any effort you might notice elsewhere in the body. In the face, jaw, shoulders or belly. Seeing if that makes it easier for your breath to come in and move out. Letting the eyes drop. See if the mind jumps quickly to something else, to judging. Be kind. That's normal. And wherever you are now, just letting go of the movement in the hands. They've done quite a lot and given quite a lot of information for over an hour now. So just see if they'd like to just rest where they are. Maybe it's on the desk in front of you, palm up, maybe in your lap. If you're laying down, they might be on the floor, palm up, palm down, on the belly. And that really curious, focused attention that you've had in your hands, see if you can kind of let it drift around a little bit. See if that feels safe or comfortable. If not, don't do it. Sort of like a detective seeking out information again. Where are you now? Muscles of your legs, hips, belly, back, arms, your face, your jaw, your tongue, all the little muscles around your eyes. You can notice those places. Just drawing the mind's attention there. A fascinated detective seeking out data. Maybe turning the attention towards any thoughts, any memories, any images in the mind, any feelings. Sometimes it can be interesting or useful to just label what arises, a sensation in the body, a thought, feeling, an image in the mind. Just allowing your noticing to drift for a moment. See what happens, see what's happening. You're an observer. All these possible pieces of data that can arise for you. None of them are good or bad, just data. A good detective doesn't dismiss any data. All data is good data, good information. So just perhaps begin to bring your focus and attention into a slightly more alert and external place. The space that you're in, the seat or floor that you're sitting or lying on, the day that this moment is contained within, and just starting to come back out of all the really detailed noticing and into your day, into this moment. Thank you for coming along with me on that journey.